This video is brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world. They are also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions.
Hello and welcome to Out of Spec Reviews. Welcome back to another Cybertruck video, and today is update day. There's a huge update pending for our pal Chomper right here, our Tesla Cybertruck Cyberbeast, and we're going to get into all the details, what the update contains, and look at some important questions such as how much better is the turning radius, how much worse is the turning radius if you disable rear steer, which you can do, how much less strong or dangerous is the Frunk mechanism, and what is still missing. Let's get into it. So this should be pretty interesting. I do have a couple Persian cucumbers here that I will be testing the Frunk closing mechanism before and after the update. I'll of course be showing the turning circle even from an aerial view. I think the biggest things are probably the off-road mode screeds, and we finally get our locking differential. But there's a lot to get into, so let's just jump straight in and get this update going because I think it does take a bit to install. So I don't know how long this update will actually take, but the GoPro right here will tell us. Once you hit install now, it will take a 2-minute countdown, and it says you want to begin, park your car, close your doors, you will not be able to drive or use your touchscreen. That's totally fine. Air suspension may lower and your alarm may be disarmed for a short duration. All good with me. I'm going to actually just sit here, get some work done, enjoy some fresh California air, and wait for the update. So I will count down, well, I guess count up in my case, and let you guys know how long exactly it will take. But I'm guessing, I don't really know how long it'll take. They said 30 minutes as an estimate on the screen before I hit install now, so we'll find out. And here we go. Now that the update is underway, what update is it? Well, you probably saw on the screen, it's 2024.14.3. Hard to keep these straight sometimes. They don't have like normal, I don't know, not normal, but you know, Mac OS is like Sonoma and Windows is like Vista. But this is 2024.14.3 and we're coming from 2024.8.12. So it is incremental, but it does have a lot of huge features. But notably, some are not coming to this update, and I'll talk at the end about some big missing things, but a crucial one is hilariously on the screen right here. It says, updating autopilot, driver assistance and dash cam disabled, do not drive until complete. What autopilot? This update literally doesn't give us autopilot or full self-driving, either of those. Full self-driving, I guess I could understand, like, this is a big truck, they probably have a lot more testing to do with it. You have the steer-by-wire system, you have rear wheel steer, a few things that has not been on a Tesla before. But autopilot, that's kind of frustrating. Dang, okay, just finished at right over an hour and I missed my stand goal because of this dumb update. But we are finally ready to take a look at everything that has been added to this truck, test a couple things. So I've got to say, I really don't mind long updates. In fact, most people will just install them overnight in their garage, and updates are nothing new. I mean, a lot of our other technology has updates. Sometimes computers take hours to update. So the fact that this computer on wheels took about an hour, not really a big deal. But let's jump into all the features that have been added and see what we think of them. By the way, if anyone cares to know, it only used 1% of the battery to actually do the update. But talking through the release notes, we have off-road mode. That's one of the biggest ones, I think. Overland mode now provides more consistent handling and better overall traction while driving on rock, gravel, etc. Baja mode is also improved, which I feel like Baja mode is already fine. In fact, we actually love driving in it in and of itself. But off-road mode used to be in the driving controls, which you could find in dynamics. Actually, it's still there. Let's see if that's a jump into the app. It's not. So you actually still have to go into the off-road app to have all the access. But this is still a way to get into the off-road sections and turn on trail assist. But at least they have a shortcut to their own app, which then opens everything in here. This is awesome. I could think of this kind of like you would track mode. Track mode on Model 3 Performance, Model S Plaid, all those things have battery temperatures, motor temperatures. It's pretty cool to see everything laid out here just how you want it, and your button for your locking differential. or at least you're showing, I guess this is where you do it on, and then you can show it over here. So it's currently grayed out, which is interesting. You got overland and Baja, your pitch, roll, your compass, and your cameras here, which is pretty sweet. You can swipe between different rear cameras, rear looking down, rear looking straight backwards, and of course the front camera. And then you have the side cameras, which you can click on and view, I guess. You can't swipe between them. So once you go left, you have to go back out and then over to the right. I definitely wish the camera situation was a bit, you know, like I wish you had an option. Oh, you can clean the camera that way. Okay, that's cool. I wish you had the option to see all the cameras at once, like make this even more customizable. And why does this section have to be so big? Like make this smaller, make this bigger. I'm just nitpicking at that point, but pretty interesting to have everything here in its own little section. It does scroll, but there's nothing below. So I guess you could have it, they could add things later on. That's the nice thing about updates. Stopping mode, you have hold versus roll. So a lot of good off-road things. Ride height could be high or very high, or extract mode, which I think is like full 17 inches of ground clearance, which it probably lets you just crawl through it. Interestingly, inside this off-road app, you don't have the trail assist. You have to go back to dynamics to then go trail assist. I don't know why it's not all in one place. And then to adjust your Baja deceleration mode, you have to do it back in here. And then you go back into the off-road app to do the other things. That's a little silly to me, but fine, whatever. I guess they can do that. But if you want to do lock and differential, interesting. Maybe it's because I'm not in drive. That's probably it. There we go. Now you can actually lock the front differential. Front on. So no actual warnings or anything when I did that, which is interesting. I'll just fasten my seatbelt here. We'll see if we can. And then in off-road mode, it won't auto select your gear. You actually have to manually tell it which way to go. We'll go forward here and we'll see if the front locking differential is already engaged. There we go. I thought I heard it, and now it's showing as engaged. So that's pretty cool. That should help to get you out of some sticky situations, possibly. But honestly, we were pretty impressed with the off-road capability, even without locking differentials turned on. So that's, yeah, not a big deal. Maybe more of a deal in the dual motor all-wheel drive option. But pretty cool to have it here in the tri-motor. So we have the physically different motors in the back and the locking differential up front. All the temperatures look good. By the way, hold to customize left scroll wheel is another new function on the Cybertruck. Not new for some other Teslas, but I can have it be whatever I want. And honestly, I don't know, you can jump to off-road mode, adjust ride height, which is kind of cool, steering wheel, frost, dome lights, or glove box. I genuinely want to know if anyone's going to select glove box. But I think I'm going to do fan speed. I've been doing the aircon on, you know, fully manual lately. So just going to leave that on, see how that works. Back into the screen here. Look at all these blue dots showing us new things. After every update, that's what you can expect to see. So I think we pretty much looked at everything in off-road mode. Rear steer can now be turned off in off-road mode, which is pretty cool. And in fact, let's actually jump to that section of the update. Supposedly our turning circle has improved from normal, which is already pretty good, honestly, because of the rear wheel steering. So I'm going to test it. So how is the turning radius now? Let's actually jump to before the update and get that for some comparative data. All right, let's move forward and then immediately cut to the full left. Back to straight. How good was that? Of course, I had the drone slightly out of range, but we can now measure from the very middle of the back of the truck. So just under 32 feet before the update. Now these are my feet. I'm not really being super scientific. I don't have a tape measure right now, but my feet will work just fine for comparing apples to apples in this case. So now let's see how it did post-update. Now I unlocked the locking differential again just to make it easy, and you also never want to use that on a high friction surface. Given that I'm currently on gravel, it would have been okay, but I want to make sure it's as apples to apples as possible. So back in off-road mode, make sure, yep, locking differential's off, and we're leaving rear steer on right now. So just like before, going forward and immediate turn, full lock to see how tight the circle is. And that's pretty impressive. I mean, it was already impressive, but we've gone pretty much a full 180 now, I believe. Straighten back out, put it back in park. So how tight was that? Going from the very middle once again, and wow, so that actually is like exactly 1.5 foot difference from before. But let's see what happens if we do that again without rear steer. All right, back to the off-road menu, rear steer off. Rear axle steering disabled by request. Use touchscreen to enable turn radius limited. Just how limited is it? So now going forward, full cut to the left. Definitely can tell it's not quite where it was. And so I left the other black box mysteriously over where the truck finished last time. And we are definitely a bit over from that. Ugh. Box for comparison. So the previous one actually ended up being right here. That's where the front of the truck was before. And now it's over here. So that is a difference in turning radius with and without rear tires. Or rear wheels turned. Now what actually excites me as a automotive photographer is the fact that I can now turn the front wheels, leave the rear one straight, and get a photo just like that. That's kind of actually exciting. Okay, now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, the off-road mode, yeah, we talked about that. Terrains in Baja, so you got smooth, rugged, and clearance. So this is interesting. This means we can now do Baja mode in medium ride height, increasing dampening for excellent body control, responsive handling. So sounds like this would be maybe the most fun option to drive this truck in now, because notably before, Baja mode only lets you drive in like high ride height, I think, which just felt like it was hard on the half shaft. So Kyle should be very happy about that. So basically smooth, rugged, and clearance is just Baja mode, but in medium, high, and very high. Still no low Baja mode. So I guess even if you're on a super sort of smooth, sandy terrain, still not really an option. Front locking differential, we already talked about this. And this will help the actual grip, like, if one wheel actually has traction, the other one will still, and the other one's in the air, they'll just send traction to the one of them. So instead of using like a brake-based system, this now should have an actual locking differential. Just funny to me that that's actually done through an update. Trail assist, this is pretty cool. So you can now do cruise controls. So like I said before, you have to go into dynamics, then launch trail assist, boom, confirm. And that's so cool. So trail assist will let you do super slow cruise control when off-road. That is significant because this way you can actually focus entirely on steering and not have to worry about modulating the pedal. What's different about trail assist and from cruise control is that hitting the brake pedal will not disable trail assist. It will allow it to keep going. So you can just slow down. If you set trail assist to like 3 miles an hour and you hit a brake to slow down to 1 mile an hour to do an obstacle, you let off the brake, it'll get back up to 3 miles an hour. That's also pretty cool. And we have slippery surface. So slippery surface optimizes traction control for driving on different slippery options. Makes sense. Dynamics, slippery surface. Here we go. Where is it? Comfort, custom. Oh, here we go. Slippery surface. New. And when you turn that on, that will then allow you to handle slippery surfaces, I guess. Notably, I think Tesla's traction control was already pretty good. So now that you can do slippery surface I guess you can't get into it in here. So it's just back in the normal dynamics mode. So it is a bit of tapping around to find the stuff you want. Slippery surface is available in all different modes, including custom. So if you're worried about the snow or ice or wet, this will be good. So like I said, their traction control was already good, but this way it's like maybe telling the computer to be more prepared for the roads to be slippery. Instead of it being reactive, it's being a bit more proactive. Back in the actual release notes, which by the way, after you install an update, you can go back into software, go here to release notes to see what you actually missed. You can also access that through the manual app. Ride and handling with a load. So the active suspension, notably in the rear, because that's where most of the load will actually be handling the stuff, is preparing itself to handle loads. If you have a huge load in the bed, like weighing it down, maybe you're close to the gross vehicle weight rating, or at least the payload rating, this will tell the truck to be more prepared for that and adjust the damping. Probably also the same for even trailers, although I think it might do that somewhat automatically beforehand. Now it's definitely more optimized for loads. I guess in theory that's for the front trunk as well, if you had that really loaded down, but I don't know who really does. Not the most useful front truck. Then we have CyberTent Mode. This will level the suspension so you can sleep comfortably on a flat surface, keeps the tonneau cover open to accommodate your tent, and you won't need a lantern because you now have lighting controls in the app to adjust the bed lighting, and the outlets can be left on if needed. That can be adjusted in outlets and mods in your settings or control in the Tesla app. Cool, and it tells you where to buy the CyberTent. Notably, this is not only for CyberTent. You can actually do it with any tent. So let's actually go in there, go to, where to go? Outlets and mods, CyberTent Mode. Boom, activate. The whole truck is immediately leveling out. This is awesome. Let's take a look outside and see how it looks. The tonneau just opened. It didn't lower the bed, but I guess that's good. That means it's a bunch of noise happening right here. Didn't lower the tailgate, but maybe that's good because what if you're like backed up almost to a tree or something? And you can hear the air suspension kind of ticking away. And notably, I am not on a totally level parking lot, but the truck is doing its thing. So the front, you can tell, is squatted. The rear is up a little bit. The rear should be up even more on this side. Wow, it's like almost maximum lift mode, and the front's a bit higher on this side. Let's see what it's saying. Tonneau, unsuccessful. Well, that's not true. It's very much successful, and the suspension is still leveling. It'll tell me whether it gives me an error or not, but looks pretty level from my point of view, but it says the tonneau's unsuccessful. I wonder why. I think the tonneau was very successful. So if I hit retry, I wonder what will actually happen. Moving, unsuccessful. So the tonneau doesn't know that it's actually opened, which is also a bit strange. But suspension, boom, level. That's so cool. That's super cool. Not sure what the issue with the tonneau is. If I hit retry, still nothing. What if I go into here? I can't close the tonneau because I'm in tent mode. It is cool to show this whole animation with the CyberTent. You can even look inside and even zoom in on some of the details. That's kind of fun. But that's just hilarious. And then here I can hold to exit CyberTent mode. 2, 1, boom. So now the ride height is going back to, it says raising, but it's actually lowering back to what it was before. I guess it's lowering and raising different parts depending on what it's doing. That's kind of funny. Tonneau stayed open. Closing that now. Not really sure what happened with the tonneau cover, to be honest. And if this CyberTent mode fails to level because your terrain is just too off kilter, it'll do its best and then give you a warning just saying, hey, this is not quite gonna work. Find more level ground or whatever. Okay, I did leave the tailgate down. I'm driving forward and backwards a little bit. Every time the truck like raises and lowers, it is good to take some of the load off the suspension and move the truck around just a bit. So now I'm back normal, back on medium ride height to continue looking through some of these notes. Okay, so looked at CyberTent mode. That's awesome. One thing I want to mention is I wish there was a way to do CyberTent mode without the tonneau cover being forced to be open. You can't close it in CyberTent mode. And honestly, I had the thought, what if the bed is your tent and you don't have an actual tent and you just want the actual protection from the rain-ish through the tonneau cover? It's not like fully waterproof, but I had that thought. Like, what if I want to sleep in my leveled out Cybertruck, but don't want the tonneau open? I guess that's a super edge case. Let me know if I'm completely out of the blue on that. Now we can look at some of the apps. So Audible is now available, which is Amazon. I think it's owned by Amazon anyways. Audiobooks, which is pretty cool. Spotify, I don't use it. I get a lot of flack from that from the out of spec crew. Are you team Spotify or team Apple Music or team Tidal or Amazon Music or YouTube Music? Curious what your music player is, but now Spotify queue and playback speed is available in the Cybertruck. Cool. Preview of Sentry Mode recordings. So now when Sentry Mode recordings show up, you can actually see them on your phone. And you can also, by the way, go into Sentry Mode and delete recordings, supposedly. There's a lot of things in here and I'm still getting used to it. Let's see, safety, Sentry Mode, view Sentry Mode live on the mobile app. That was already there before. Now we can see our recordings here and actually delete them if we don't want them manually for some reason. So that's now an option. I'll take options over none at all. Speed camera chime. So there's now a chime when a speed camera is detected. Not every area has speed cameras, but for the ones that do, that's great. Also, trip progress bar. You can now see different levels of traffic along the edge of your trip, which shows up here when you're actually on a trip. Okay, so this progress bar only actually shows up as you drive closer to your destination or next stop. So there we go. Now you can see little bits of traffic on this preview thing in orange and red. So that's kind of cool. Now we can see that in the trip stuff. Cybertruck Colorizer. People with wraps are going to love this. You can go into the toy box and now you can see a colorizer option. Other Teslas have had this, but now you can actually change the color of your Tesla Cybertruck with solid and metallic matte colors. That's pretty awesome. Nice. So I guess yeah, that's one way to do it. And there's the original color back there. So if you have your truck wrapped, now you can't do weird cool ombre or dual tone stuff or tritone or anything like that, but you have a single color option for your Cybertruck, which people will probably appreciate because a lot of people are wrapping their trucks and I think it makes sense. It's really hard to keep this finish clean. Custom scroll wheel functions, we already kind of showed that and I have that currently set to fan speed. Zoom, that's pretty interesting. I'm hoping to try this at some point, doing a Zoom meeting. I don't really have enough service right now to try a meeting. I didn't have anyone scheduled to set up with that, but at some point I'm going to totally put a Zoom meeting on the truck. And it does use the interior cabin camera, which is right up here. And that will be your Zoom meeting camera, which is hilarious. You have to shift to park to use participant video and screen sharing, but it looks like you can actually do screen sharing too, which is crazy. I guess from the browser on here. And then if you drive, the meeting will switch to audio, so it won't kick you out. That's kind of nice. Yeah, it requires premium connectivity, by the way. Beach Buggy Racing 2, I will definitely try this out. And this notably, this is not a new game. Other Teslas have this game, but now you can play it on your Cybertruck and control the wheel without actually moving the tires because it's steer-by-wire, which is awesome. That should also be in the, somewhere in here, toy box maybe, or arcade. Beach Buggy Racing 2, there it is. Download waiting for Wi-Fi. So you still have to install it on Wi-Fi, I guess, maybe? Yeah, so that's fun. I mean, we've all pretty much seen that before, but notable if you care. New lock sounds. This is kind of fun if you ask me, but I'm actually going to go back to my USB sound and here we go. Let me show you my custom USB sound. highly recommend this method. That's so much fun. The Windows XP shutdown sound. Cabin overheat protection. This is a huge one for some people. They seem to really value this. Curious what camp you are in. Do you think this is a huge, important update for the Cybertruck? Notably, this is from other Teslas as well, but basically it prevents the cabin from overheating, you know, especially if it's a hot day or you're parked in the direct sunlight. And it only holds it for up to 12 hours after you park, which I guess makes sense. That would cover pretty much most of the daylight unless you're parking super early in the morning. And it will only hold it until 20% battery. Now, it should last a while because this truck has a pretty big battery. It doesn't take a ton of energy to run AC. And you might even be able to change it to be just on the fans. So safety, cabin overheat protection, there we go. So you can actually set the temperature at which it will be turned on for. I'm actually going to turn that off, but that's pretty cool to have if you do care about it. Like I said before, can't really, I think it's fine to have more features than less. Front passenger air vents. This is pretty cool. Now we can actually hold to turn off, tap to turn on. Then we have the improved turning circle, which we already talked about, but it says it's improved by 1.6 feet. I've pretty much verified that, you know, not officially because I was measuring with my actual feet, but it is notably improved by a little bit. I mean, from just over 30 feet to closer to 30 feet. I mean, it's still a fairly large turning circle compared to a tiny car, but that's really pretty impressive. I think that's on par with like Model S. And they do this by increasing the turning angle of the front and rear wheels. So it's not just rear wheel steering improvements like we might have thought. So the turning circle now is improved. And like I showed, you can also have it with the rear wheels off. And then I guess it still is technically a little bit improved because of the front turning circle, the front turning radius. So that's interesting. I didn't think to, well, I guess there was no way to test that before and after because we had no way to turn off the rear wheel steer before this update. Better route available. If better route pops up, it'll now show up as an easier thing to select, which I do like. And then wiper controls. This is just a scroll wheel. So if you do the wiper, oh my gosh, it's really cringy, but you can now use the left scroll wheel. Oh, I just missed it. Left scroll wheel to actually turn it off and on. I'm not going to do that on the dry windshield any more than I absolutely have to. Security improvements. Now for the other updates, which I still want to talk about because I think there's some notable things in here. For example, browser full screen. For when you want to go to the Tesla website or maybe out of specstudios.com, now we can do, boom, full screen for all of your lovely entertainment needs. Rear passengers can now see the current trip details, time, and temperature at the top of the rear touchscreen, except when entertainment apps are using full screen. Now you can actually see the time here, the temperature, and if I go activate some navigation, just like before, starting route, now you can see arriving. So the kids don't have to say, are we there yet? You can be like, please refer to your screen in front of you. Thank you. You can delete Sentry Mode recordings. We already mentioned that. Now when you have valet mode turned on and they start driving your car, it's shifted out of park, you'll be notified. So you'll probably be like, oh, they're relocating my car, or they're going on a joyride. Now you at least can debate that in your own head and be aware of the fact that they are moving your car. Is that good or bad? I'm curious what you guys think of that. I think it's a bit of an overreach, but for people who are really precious about their cars, now you can tell exactly how many times valet has used your car, moved your car, and you can question them. Vampire Survivors Guide and Arcade now has Space 54 and Deplorable updates in case you were big into that. Arcade now includes the latest game for Polytopia Path of the Ocean, in case you're into that. If you have no passengers in the backseat, rear touchscreen turns off when you shift out of park to reduce unnecessary energy use. Cool. Don't think that'll make a difference, but that is technically an eco-minded update. I'm all about it. When you open the door to get in, Cybertruck overhead lights come in at a lower brightness if you have lights, dome lights, set to auto, which I will do right now. Lights, dome lights, auto. Okay, maybe that was default because they were a bit bright at night. I will give them that. So, lastly, let's finish with this. The powered frunk can better detect obstructions just before it finishes closing. Can it? Let's find out. Okay, here we go. Persian Cucumber against the Cybertruck Frunk before the update. Let's see just how strong this really is. I'm actually going to do it right here, kind of in the middle, not way up here. Of course, that's even worse probably for pinching it, but just a realistic, you know, middle of the frunk before it actually hits this plastic piece right here. Let's try and see what happens. Oh gosh. RIP to this cucumber. Oh my gosh. Fingers gone. These actually are like fairly strong. I mean, of course you can chomp through them with your teeth, but this thing chomped through it with its teeth. Rip. Okay, now post update with the Persian cucumber. By the way, these are both pretty much identically sized cucumbers. I tried to make it as exact as possible, and I will even hold it in the exact same place as before. So let's go. Let's see if this is improved at all. Moment of truth. It did amazingly. Holy crap. That's fantastic. Let's try again in a different place. Further up. Ooh, a bit more of a crunch that time, but it did still catch it. Unlike before, it would have completely chopped it in half, but that is still a, yeah, slightly damaged cucumber. Just for kicks and giggles, we're gonna move it down here further. In theory, the further away from the crux, the sooner it should recognize it. Yes, and it does. Awesome. Okay, that's definitely, I think, a noticeable improvement. In fact, a scientific improvement, as shown by this now slightly wobbly cucumber. Still not fantastic, but I'm just gonna try it again right here. Yeah, it did pop it again, but that's only because of the sharpness of the edge, which I guess I shouldn't really defend that because that's a thing, but that is pretty cool. Still not ideal. I don't know how actually sensitive these motors can actually detect things, because on one hand you need the motors to be powerful enough to close this probably heavy front lid, but how can you make them that sensitive to where they detect small objects or fingers or stuff like that? Now, Rivian did this absolutely correctly by using a pinch sensor along the edge. We know Tesla has the technology. In fact, the Model Y gull-wing doors does have a pinch sensor, so they just didn't put it in here for some reason. I don't know if it was cost cutting or they were just trying to rush it out. There's a lot of hate about it, but honestly, an improvement is an improvement. I will take it. So there you have it. New updates to the Cybertruck. A lot of really long awaited updates. People have been really excited. It keeps locking. Notably, I think the off-road screens could use even more improvements, and I think we will see incremental things throughout the lifespan of this truck. I mean, obviously, that's one of the magic things about Tesla, and actually not just Tesla. The companies I appreciate their software on seem to have over-the-air updates that are always bringing new and improved functionality. Sometimes they do walk back the functionality and take away from what people really do seem to want. So curious what you guys think of updates in general. I feel like we're probably all in the same boat. We probably all really appreciate them, and it's nice to have things get better. But we've talked about before, we've made videos before on, is it okay to ship a product that's not really complete? And I would say, honestly not, but we still seem to buy it because we're so excited about the new, fun, special, shiny thing. But on the other hand, software updates, especially from a bit more of a progressive company, can help you bring some of those features that you were expecting, but also some that maybe you didn't even know were coming. So what do you think of all these updates? What do you wish had been included? Notably, there's no autopilot, even though a huge chunk of that hour installing the update said autopilot, which is hilarious, but we still have no autopilot. We have no full self-driving. We have no light bar on the top. A bunch of our Foundation series things are still not on this truck, but at least we have a locking differential now, and the frunk won't quite kill you. We'll see you on another out of spec reviews video soon. Lots more to do with the Cybertruck. We're gonna take it on some off-roading adventures as soon as I get back to Colorado, maybe go to Moab. There's a lot to jump into with this thing, and I continually like it more and more and more than I expected. Updates of course help, although I don't think these updates are like super mission critical. They do improve some things, and I will be testing it throughout the rest of my time here in California and on my road trip back to Colorado. So thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in another out of spec video very soon. Bye-bye. You want some? No? See yourself.